This is Agriculture Today, and I'm Shelby Varner with the K-State Radio Network. K-State grain economist Daniel O'Brien starts the show discussing the potential impact of today's release of the Crop Production and WASDE report. Continuing the show is Dan Moser, interim Eldon Gideon Dean of the College of Agriculture at K-State, as he talks about the upcoming Celebrate Ag Weekend at K-State for friends and family. Chip Redmond, K-State meteorologist, ends the show reviewing the recent wet weather, and he previews the forecast with warmer weather. That and more is coming up ahead on Agriculture Today.
Thanks for joining us on Agriculture Today. Along with Shelby Varner, I'm Jeff Wickman. We start off today's program with our weekly grain market report from K-State grain market economist Daniel O'Brien. Daniel, in just a little while, they'll come out with the USDA Crop Production and WASDE report, and as part of that, a good opportunity to talk about maybe things that are moving in this report.
Yes. Big questions, of course, will have to do with the size of the crops, particularly corn, but also soybeans. The average estimate of U.S. crop yields is, it was in the August report, 188.8 bushels per acre, by far a record by 7 or 8 bushels per acre. The pre-report trade estimate is for that to be toned down some. It's a little bit over 186 bushels per acre. And instead of 16.74 billion bushels, we'd end up with 16.52 billion bushels. So regardless, you're still over the past record of 15.2, 15.3 billion bushels by far. And from there, then, that, I guess, gives context to what happens to the rest of that corn balance sheet. So the first issue, I think, when people look at their information source, they'll look for what that corn yield is. In the markets, they'll be responsive to that. It's interesting to look at the range of yield estimates that people will be accounting for. The highest bid, according to a survey of trade analytical companies, was 189 bushels per acre. The low was 182.7. It's interesting that 182.7 is just about equal to the Pro Farmer survey that occurred about a week or so ago. But yet, before everybody hitched their idea to that is what the reality would be, then there was another survey that came out, I think, by the Allendale Group of 189 or so, even higher than what the USDA had. So lots of uncertainty. And really, I think if the expectation is about 186, if we get 186, 187 bushels per acre, probably not a lot of change in the futures markets, which, by the way, yesterday, East corn closed at $4.19 and 3/4, just about $4.20. So again, if we come in close to expectations, maybe not a lot of differential. However, if we come in at 185, 184, which it's interesting that we used to think of those as astronomical yields. Well, now they'd be almost a disappointment, given the expectations in the market. So we'll be watching for that. And then on the soybean side, that August report, the USDA projected also a record yield, 53.6 bushels per acre. The expectation is for that one also to be trimmed down a bit, just a small amount, down to 53.3 bushels per acre, range of 52.2 to 54. So again, not probably near as much downside is thought to be there for soybeans. The total numbers, I guess, between 53.6 and 4.29 billion bushels down to 52.5, which would be a record high. The 4.2 is not a lot, but I think the question to ask is how then do these numbers translate off into the supply-demand balance sheets? When you look at the corn balance sheets and see what impact you'd have if you had 184, 186 bushels per acre for a yield, you're looking at changes of from 3 to 500 million bushels. And if the usage doesn't change on the supply-demand balance sheets, then you'd be in the business of adjusting the projected U.S. corn ending stocks from the USDA's August projection, about 2.1 billion, down to 1.7, 1.8 thereabouts. So, and stocks to use from about 13.4 that we had again in August down to something around 11 or less. So that's really what's at the heart of the uncertainty right now in the corn market. And for the soybean market, if we have a somewhat lower yield than USDA has projected, if we get down to 52 bushels per acre, 51 and a half or so, which is still possible, well, then you're getting U.S. soybean projected stocks for this market, and you're closer to 200 million. And stocks to use, which were already pretty tight, really, at 6.7%, you're getting down to 4.5 or 5% stocks to use. And I guess by history, when we start to ratchet those stock figures back down to these tighter levels, part of the stocks as an amount and as a percentage, you'd expect to see prices run to the high side. And that's the conundrum, Jeff, right now, because we're approaching harvest. We have this uncertainty. So if we do start to see lower stocks coming out of this report in a few minutes, will prices jump or fall appreciably from wherever we're at? The thoughts right now would be probably that with large quantities coming on one way or the other, that we're probably looking at just so-so prices at best over the next 1 or 2 or 3 months. But then after that, will depend on the demand side of those balance sheets. And really, I guess for this report, we really don't expect to see a lot of changes in some of these categories, particularly the feed-related ones, until we get the results of the September 30th, end of September grain stocks report. That'll tell us what we might have for livestock feeding that could affect, for sure, the corn supply-demand balance sheet. But if anything changes for this balance sheet for the September report here on today, the 12th, it's probably the export number. So we'll be watching that to see just where things go. And there also will be some world corn, soybean, wheat, ending stocks figures also being watched. But those numbers, any changes in them will probably follow mainly what happens in the U.S. balance sheet. So even the international numbers are pretty dependent on what happens domestically. I think coming into this report, odds are, if we're being conservative, we're expecting the continuation of large crops, no real major drop-off in yields. But if that doesn't hold true, particularly now, and as the USDA has gotten out into the fields and done their own measurements, we'll be really holding up the actual measurements that the USDA has out as they've gone out to measure versus what farmers have for what they've seen so far, what they expect in the fields. Either way, there's the potential in the next hour or so for volatility and price opportunity to come into the markets if these yield figures fall short of the lofty expectations we have right now.
Daniel, for the last 3 or 4 minutes, let's take a look at some of the futures markets and the cash markets around Kansas.
Well, the issue for us to watch would be the carries in these markets. If we do end up and have large crops and harvest lows, at least, again, for corn, for sorghum, for soybeans, and some carryover impact onto wheat, then what type of signals do we have for storing these crops? And when you look at the corn futures complex, going from the September contract, which is almost off the board as we approach the middle of the month, off now to December, you're looking at carries from D's to March of about just under 6 cents per bushel, from March to May at closer to 5, just a little over 5. May to July, about 3.5 cents per bushel per month. And in that, you're looking at, again, without any changes in or narrowing up of basis, you'd be looking at basically break-even storage costs from December out into March, and still at least breaking even probably out into May, but then starting to give a signal that as we're sitting here today on the 12th looking at these markets, before anything might happen in the futures markets relative to the USDA report, we're probably looking at a break-even storage situation, which, Jeff, when you look at the futures and you're wondering what type of signals that they'll have, competitive forces tend to drive us to cost, and that's about where we're at. And for soybeans, though, you do have quite a bit more carry in the futures here from the November futures contract closed yesterday at 10.33 up to the January 26th contract at 10.52.5. Well, that's a 9.5 cent per bushel carry, so that's a pretty strong signal to store at least temporarily. Then from January to March, you've got about a 7.75 cent per bushel per month storage incentive. March to May, you're getting out to 6.75, and then, of course, May into July for soybeans we're talking about, you're at about 5. So, you'd be holding soybeans through the time frame when you'll have a lot of information coming with regard to the developing crop in South America, some other issues around the world, geopolitical or whatever coming into play. But as you look at what we have right in front of us, you've got from about 8 to 9.5 cents per bushel per month for storage of beans. I'm not sure how many people actually store their beans that long, especially on farm, but you do have those incentives. Then when you look at the wheat futures complex from Dees, which closed yesterday at $5.10 a bushel to the March 26th contract at $5.30 $5.25, that's just under 7 cents per bushel per month. And then from March to May, 6 and 7/8 cents per bushel per month. And then, again, as you go from May into what for us in Kansas would be the July harvest contract, you're at $5.56. So definitely you've gained about 46 cents over that time frame. But from then the May to July contract, about 5.5. I don't know what Kansas wheat growers will do if they'll be inclined to hold wheat quite that long, particularly if they have wheat in commercial storage. If they're in commercial storage and paying 5, 6, 7 cents per bushel per month plus interest, they're inclined probably to move the wheat. But if you're an elevator that has bought wheat, has it in storage, and if you haven't hedged it already, you're probably looking at 6, 7 cents per bushel, and that plus any potential for change in basis that could occur, you probably have at least a marginal outlook for some profitability. So that's kind of the situation that we're facing, and definitely coming into a harvest time frame where, unless we're surprised on the USDA production numbers, if they would happen to come in lower than thought and give the market a spur to the high side, we're looking at a storage, probably harvest lows in storage, and then wondering what other market signals might come in coming months to give us some opportunities to hit singles and doubles in baseball terminology and make some profit to storage.
Well, Daniel, as always, we thank you for the update.
Thanks, Jeff.
That's K-State grain market economist Daniel O'Brien with this week's weekly grain market report. Agriculture Today continues in a moment. This is the K-State Radio Network.
You're tuned in to Agriculture Today, and we continue our show discussing Celebrate Ag Weekend with interim Eldon Gideon Dean of the College of Agriculture at K-State, Dan Moser. Dan, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks, Shelby. Thanks for having me on.
Dan, our Celebrate Ag Weekend tied in with a football game, but stuff actually starts on Friday. And what's an event that kicks off the day?
Yeah, Shelby. So Celebrate Ag Weekend in 2025 will be the 26th and 27th of September. And several things happening on Friday for different audiences. One is the Flinchbaugh Forum. That is a really exciting meeting on ag policy, a symposium, if you will, in honor of Dr. Barry Flinchbaugh, really a legendary figure in agricultural policy nationally and internationally. And so many of his former students, and I count myself among Dr. Flinchbaugh's former students, are gathering and have really put on an amazing program with some very distinguished speakers, including previous secretaries of agriculture that are coming to Manhattan to talk about ag policy and think about where we are today and what the way forward might be.
Is there also maybe a student summit going on?
Absolutely. At the same time on Friday, our Celebrate Ag Student Summit is a great opportunity for high school students or community college transfer students that are thinking about potentially joining us at Kansas State in the College of Agriculture, and for them to learn more about our programs, to interact with our faculty and staff, meet some of our current students, our student ambassadors, and also get to know other high school or transfer students that are also thinking about coming to K-State.
For the Student Summit, is it trade show style where people walk around, or how does that formatting look?
Yeah, there's a variety of things that students will be involved in. Certainly some presentations, sort of example lectures, if you will, or a little bit about what a student might experience as a College of Ag student. All our departments will be represented and talk about the individual programs there, but also some speakers and some activities for students to get involved in too. So they're learning about what they would be learning about should they join us as a student in the College of Agriculture at K-State.
Is there some fun that's going on Friday night?
We have what we're calling the Big Barn Bash. So we know that a lot of our alums and industry friends will be coming in to Manhattan for the weekend. And so we're having a really fun event at the Stanley Stout Center from 7 to 10. All these events require registration. So whether it's the Flinchbaugh Forum, the Student Summit, or the Big Barn Bash, all of those things folks need to sign up for in advance. The Big Barn Bash is sort of a social event at the Stout Center. There'll be a live band. There'll be really good food, barbecue, really a chance to connect. A lot of alums I know will come. And so for those K-State Ag alum who haven't been to campus in a while, maybe haven't connected with a lot of their former classmates, it's a great opportunity to come and have some fun and see everyone on Friday night. And then some folks that are maybe new to the K-State family as well. We have a lot of great industry partners and all across agriculture and natural resources, and love to have them all come join us. Again, that's something that you sign up for to get registration.
And after hopefully fun-filled and educational Friday, Saturday, we have a few more events, but there is an important caveat as we're talking about Saturday's events.
Exactly. As we're recording our conversation here, the game time has not yet been set. Those of you that are familiar with college football at this level know that the TV networks make decisions close to the event, sometimes as short as a week before, in terms of exactly what time the kickoff will be. So we have events on Saturday, but when those events will actually occur depends on the kickoff time for the game. And so one of them was something really fun that we've done since the very first Celebrate Ag football game that we've had now go for maybe 4 years or so, is what we call Agville. Not Aggieville, but Agville. And Agville is basically a celebration of all the exciting things that are happening in the College of Agriculture, and it's held on the concourse of Bramlage Coliseum. All morning, the doors to Bramlage will be open, and we will have displays and tables set up, and all our departments in the College of Agriculture and partners like typically the Kansas Forest Service and Department of Agriculture and other organizations that are also very much involved in all parts of agriculture and natural resources will be there as well. So, and there'll be a wide variety of things. There'll be things for young children, balloons, and rodeo typically has some roping dummies, and they can try their luck out with a rope and those kind of things. Just a lot of hands-on sort of things, but also a lot of learning and just helping families, citizens, prospective students, grandparents, everyone just learn more about all the great things happening in the College of Agriculture. That, again, will be in the concourse of Bramlage Coliseum, adjacent to the Shamrock Zone. It'll start 4 hours before game time, and it'll wrap up an hour before. Even if you don't have a ticket to the football game, you can still come to Bramlage and be part of that. So everyone is welcome.
And something that goes hand in hand with football, tailgating, something also taking place with Celebrate Ag?
We have a special meal that will be held on the floor of Bramlage Coliseum, the same time as Agville is going up on the concourse. And so, again, anyone can come to Agville for free, no registration required. If they would like to also join us for a meal, we will have a meal, the tailgate meal, alumni and friends on the floor of Bramlage Coliseum. That will start 3 hours before game time. So if we're talking about an 11 o'clock kickoff, that would be 8 a.m. So it'll be breakfast, brunch kind of things. If it's a 7 o'clock kickoff, then we'll start that at 4 o'clock. And then midday, it could be, anyway, just plan on 3 hours before. That is also an event that people register for, a chance to see friends, learn more about all the things that are happening in the College of Agriculture. We'll have some displays and some short speakers and those things. But it's a big weekend for K-State, and it's really a big weekend for the College of Agriculture because we know that so many people that are connected with us are going to be in town. And so we're looking forward to it. And
Dan, as school has kicked off, what has it been like seeing students back in Manhattan, back on campus? Oh, it's been a lot of fun. Those of you that haven't been to Manhattan in a while, first off, the town really comes to life a few weeks before school starts, and it's so fun to work in a college town like Manhattan where young people are coming in, moving in. To see students all over campus, it really does. It's a lot of fun to just feel the energy there. And part of that energy has really grown this year because university enrollment is up. The numbers, again, aren't official yet till we get to the 20th census day coming up here in a couple of weeks. But, projections are
that the university will most likely have its third largest freshman class ever. So we've seen a big boost in incoming freshmen, incoming transfer students, and the College of Agriculture is a big part of that. In fact, percentage-wise, we'll be up even more than the overall university. So it's exciting to see the energy and the enthusiasm. Students from all over, more students from Kansas than before, more students from other states than before, students from rural areas, certainly a lot of students from urban areas as well that are coming to learn about all facets of agriculture and natural resources.
And if people do come to campus, see a little bit of construction going on, or even around Manhattan in general, how's that going?
Oh yeah, we're so excited about the new building projects that are going to benefit College of Agriculture students, College of Agriculture research programs, College of Agriculture extension programs. Starting with the first completion will be the Bilbrey Family Event Center. We'll have a ribbon cutting actually on October 10th before another K-State football game. But that facility is a livestock and equine arena. It's probably three times at least the size of what Weber Arena was that it replaces. It is climate controlled. It is 3,000 seating capacity. It's going to be a fabulous place for all kinds of events. It's going to be a great facility for the city of Manhattan as well. But we're very proud to call it as part of the College of Agriculture and appreciate all the folks that contributed both their expertise in terms of planning the facility and then obviously great financial support from all parts of agriculture, the equine industry, the livestock industry, and really all parts of agriculture to make that building a reality. We also have the Agronomy Education Center under construction just north of Kimball Avenue, and that's slated to be completed sometime early in 2026. And then really the crown jewel is the Global Center for Grain and Food Innovation between Call Hall and Weber Hall. And that building, it's a 3-story building. It's teaching facilities, both classrooms and teaching laboratories, research laboratories, faculty offices, updated dairy processing plant, updated meat processing facilities in Weber Hall, and a whole new retail outlet, which will be the home of not only Call Hall ice cream, but also the bakery products that were previously available in Schellenberger Hall, kind of a one-stop marketplace for all agriculture products right there in the new Global Center. And that'll be open in August of 2026, so not too far away.
Dan, I appreciate you taking the time to join us today.
Yeah, it was great to visit with you, Shelby. Thank you so much.
That was interim Eldon Gideon Dean of the College of Agriculture at K-State, Dan Moser. In today's show notes on agtoday.net, there will be a link if you'd like to find out more information or get registered for the events at Celebrate Ag Weekend. We're cutting to a short break now, but we'll be right back. You're tuned in to Agriculture Today, and we conclude our Friday show with a weather update from K-State meteorologist Chip Redmond. Chip, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Chip, this past week, parts of Kansas saw some more rain, and where saw that rain and how much were they receiving?
Yeah, some parts of Kansas received just an absurd amount of rain in a very, very short period of time. We had a couple areas of intense rain. That one was in central Kansas on Monday. That was kind of the headline event. It resulted in rainfall totals exceeding the 10-inch mark from about Mitchell County south and slightly east into Saline, Ellsworth County. And really, although not it's to that intensity, but we saw heavy rain totals go all the way into Reno County and Sedgwick County. So that corridor of rain was impressive, to say the least. Most of that fell in about 6 hours or so. And unfortunately, that area only averages about 3/4 to a half inch of rain a week right now. And so that's excessive rain no matter what time of year it is, though. And that resulted, unfortunately, in some pretty widespread flooding in portions of Mitchell and Lincoln, as well as Ottawa County, Saline, and Ellsworth County. And so we looked at the flooding is slowly moving downstream and not quite as extreme anymore as it enters the Smoky Hill River, but a pretty good surge of water that reached 20, 25 feet, and some new record levels across some of those streams. Another band of heavy rain fell across western Kansas and basically went from about Greeley County south and east to portions of Finney County. And, it's needed rainfall anytime we get it in western Kansas, but some folks just really would like to dry out. And these areas have seen way too much.
Did that precipitation keep our temperatures cooler?
Yes, the temperatures over the last week have been much cooler than normal. Our average high should be, obviously it depends on where you're at, but anywhere from the mid-80s for highs to the low 60s to even upper 50s now for lows. And we had a couple of days over the weekend where we saw temperatures down into the 40s in places at night, and we were struggling to get into the 70-degree mark. So we started a very, very cooler than normal September thus far. We're only 10 days in. We're 1/3 of the way through, but anomalies are already in the 7 to 5 degrees below average for the month. So a lot of warm airs needed to make up this cool start at a time where crops like to have those warmer conditions and drier conditions to dry the corn out, especially. We're just not quite there yet.
Are we going to see any of those warmer temperatures when we look at our forecast?
So the forecast into the weekend at least has high pressure building in. We're actually seeing high pressure expand and shift east. And is also going to overlap with an area in the Mississippi Valley, especially Missouri, Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky. That neck of the woods has been really, really dry. They've had almost 0% of normal precipitation since August. Since August, I mean since the beginning of August. So flash droughts developed there. And what's going to happen is we're going to see heat build in with that high pressure and actually shift westward. and so when we have the drier and warmer conditions are going to settle in. We will have one more push of a weak wave of monsoonal moisture that's going to try to approach late this weekend, Sunday night into Monday, into western Kansas. That will bring some isolated showers and storms. Again, heaviest are going to be very, very localized. But overall, most people will stay dry, I think, through at least middle to late next week, when we may see a more impressive push of moisture from the East Pacific. We've got another hurricane that's forming out there, and that moisture is going to move up and north and east along a frontal system, and it'll depend on where that front is by the end of the week next week and where that moisture will fall. But overall, I think the trend is warmer, drier for the next week, and then maybe one more shot at rain by towards the late end of September, and then things start to take a drier turn, it appears, and a warmer turn too for October and likely into November.
Chip, I appreciate you taking the time to join us today.
Yep, thanks for having me.
That was K-State meteorologist Chip Redmond. That's all we have for you this week on Agriculture Today, but we'll be back with more for you on Monday.